And welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership with a buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar with us today, baby. The beginning of a new era, the Ian Safar era on Robby and Rexrode. Ian, welcome to the program. What's
Thank you
going
very
on,
much. Man? Oh, not too much. How are you guys?
Doing awesome. Excited to have you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it. I said a few words on Stillman and Company, I guess, a week or so ago about moving on from afternoon show. Had some childcare situation with the fam.
Yep.
So moving to the mornings.
Did you say a few words including good riddance, Jared?
Those exact words did not come up per se.
GFY. See ya.
But I just want to thank everybody, management, Chase, our general manager, Sean, Bud, Nick Keyser, you guys, Jared, everybody for being so supportive and helping out.
Yep. Well, we're really happy to have you.
I want to say something to you. It's the same thing I said to Nick, but you are on the Mount Rushmore of Robby and Rexrode producers.
You are.
Oh, that's true. There's only
You've
four now.
already earned
You
your
already
way
done it.
onto the Mount Rushmore.
Well, let's hope I don't get
Congratulations.
bumped off at some point.
That's true. That's true. Well, we're happy to have Ian with us on
Thanks.
the program.
It should be fun.
Moving forward here, no doubt about it. It's going to be awesome, and looking forward to what we're going to do together here on the show. And fortunately for you, Ian, crazy day to start.
Feels
the
like old
show
times,
today.
huh?
Just kind of feel like old times. So, Joe, we had a conversation about Nico Iamaleava and a potential contract negotiation with Tennessee on Friday. So this was Friday morning at 6:30, 6:45 is when this all went down.
One of the all-time, then the news breaks right after our show.
Yeah, it was really, really special what happened after that. So let's just quickly roll through what's happened since our show Friday. He doesn't show up to practice on Friday, which just raises red flags everywhere. So, the latest information when we were talking Friday morning was he was in contract negotiations. Tennessee fans were yelling at On3 Sports about their report.
Pete Nakos.
Was
getting called a B
was
word.
just getting absolutely crucified out there. Nico's dad was yelling at him on Twitter, and that's where we kind of left things off Friday morning. Well, Friday morning after our show ends, he doesn't show up for the final spring practice before the spring game. No one can apparently find him all day long. There's all these reports that Tennessee cannot get a hold of Nico Iamaleava. So it starts to become pretty clear that something's going down. And then by the time Saturday morning rolls around, Joe, apparently Friday night, Nico had contacted Joey Halsley, the Tennessee offensive coordinator, and said that he had put his paperwork in, that he was going into the transfer portal. And by Saturday morning, Josh Heupel had informed the team that they were moving on from Nico Iamaleava. So in the span of a day, it went from, it looks like Nico's in contract negotiations with Tennessee to, Nico's no longer a part of the football team. They're moving on at quarterback, and he's going in the portal. What a wild weekend for Tennessee.
Unbelievable. And it's amazing. There's a lot of things to this. We're going to get to all of it today, but it's amazing how Nico has been at the center of so many things, right? He's been at the center of, whoa, look at this new era where multi-million-dollar deals are happening. And then, whoa, look at this huge court case that the Tennessee Attorney General, and this could be where we all know for sure now you have no power at all to enforce rules. And now we have basically the first holdout, and a very dumb one and a very bad one. And I look at, you just laid out the timeline. To me, it's pretty simple. They overplayed their hand, and I say they. I mean, I have no idea what's going on. Maybe Nico behind closed doors is like, hey, Dad, shut up, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I doubt it. I think Nick Iamaleava looks like a complete idiot in this situation, and I think they overplayed their hand, and then I think Tennessee decided to, frankly, go to media to get the court of public opinion on their side in part, and just because they were exasperated by the situation. And then the reaction the other way is don't show up, just don't go. So it just ends that quickly, and it's a shame. It's a shame for him. It's a shame for Tennessee. But I think that ultimately, like this is a decision you had to make.
Yeah, like it is. I was thinking about. I saw a tweet about this over the weekend, and I did think about this in the time. You know, the craziest part about this whole thing, from strictly the Tennessee standpoint, is like this is like maybe the third or fourth or fifth craziest thing that's happened down there in the last 15 to 20 years. I mean, you've got all the Kiffin stuff and the Shiano stuff, and there's been some wild things that have gone on with Tennessee. I mean, the McDonald's bags allegedly with
Sure.
yeah. So there's been a lot of things that have happened with Tennessee. So in some ways, this just kind of feels like the latest installment there. It is pretty wild, like the basically the universal support in the aftermath of this that Josh Heupel and the Tennessee program have gotten. It was interesting to watch that over the weekend unfold that way. It's a shame that it's worked out this way because we're going to get to this from the Heupel standpoint a little bit later in the show. What did we say last year about Nico Iamaleava? The way that his Tennessee tenure goes was probably going to, in large part, determine what Josh Heupel was as a Tennessee head coach. And now here we are, a year into him being a starting quarterback, and he's gone. And it tells me a lot of things. And again, like you said, we got a whole lot to get into on this thing today. But here's a couple of things that are just kind of my takeaway. We're going to hear a lot of Tennessee fans talk about George McIntyre and the big recruit that he is coming from here locally. We're going to hear a lot of Tennessee fans talk about Faison Brandon, who's the number one overall player in America in 2026, who they've got committed to them. And my standpoint on this is now and will continue to be moving forward here. Yeah, well, that's great. Let me know when they're on the field, when that first Saturday in September rolls around and they're the starting quarterback. Like that's, I think if you're a fan, I'm not saying you don't get excited about recruits. I'm not saying you don't get excited about player movement when it benefits your team. But basically now it's like, yeah, let me know when fall camp starts and one of those guys are playing quarterback for you moving forward. That's where we're at in college football at the moment.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, even before all this era, quarterback rooms would always spread out, right? So, I mean, I agree. And actually, I right now, I think Jake Merkley, I think he's going to be the starter.
Yeah, I mean, for this year's team, he very well could be.
So
I'm just talking about those high-level recruits moving forward. I do not care until they walk on campus.
For sure. I mean, George is there, so yeah. I mean, and I, I think that, but again, it's like, is Brandon going to come in and be awesome immediately, and then who transfers out of?
Is he going to come in at all? Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Do you even get to that point? Yeah. And then, of course, so I think one thing that we may have this week, which will probably happen at 9:04 on some particular day, is Tennessee pry a QB away from somebody else now?
Right. And that's going to be a big part of this week as well. But look, this is going to be really interesting to see. Number one, where does Nico end up? Where is the next stop going to be for him? Because, Joe, my thought process on this was he had to have at least been offered by somebody and has some idea where he's going, or this just makes this even more of just the dumbest decision ever by him and his representatives. And I'll put representatives there because some of that's family. Some of that, I believe, is actual quote unquote representation.
But it's like a family friend agent. Like it's a complete bleep show, man.
So I hope for his sake that there's been, we know there's been back channeling. I hope for his sake that he, prior to all this, found something and was like, this is where I'm going. And it's worked out that way. I kind of think maybe it hasn't, and he's just floating in the wind right now, which is not a very good spot for him to be.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, look, if he goes in, I think this will come out, I think today, probably at about 9:07. If he goes in and has a do not contact tag, then I guess we know that. But I bet you it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think they just played the portals coming open, and apparently there was some shopping on their part to other schools.
Yeah.
And
a lot of interesting rumors about that one.
Yeah,
too.
Dan Lanning was asked about that the other day, but I mean, who knows? We'll see. But my suspicion here is that that's not the case. And so, like, does a UCLA end up bringing him home or something like that? Maybe. So you're going to go play for a bad school. They're not going to pay $4 million.
Yeah.
I mean, again, he got a raise already. And to just if this was just as simple as we got the portal coming up and we're just gonna leverage for more money and do whatever we can to try to get more money. It's just a terrible play. Terrible.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We are off and running today here on Robby and Rexrode. Nico Iamaleava out as Tennessee quarterback. Where do the Vols go from here? How did we get to this point? And what does this all mean for the state of college football? We got a lot to get into on that front throughout the show. Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel will be with us at 7:30. We'll get Cory Curtis's thoughts on this for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock as well. We'll have more of your reaction coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I'm sure I'm going to get asked about this here in a second, so I'll address it on the front end. Today's landscape of college football is different than what it has been. It's unfortunate, just the situation and where we're at with Nico. I want to thank him for everything that he's done since he's gotten here. That's as a recruit to who he was as a player, and how he competed inside of the building. And so a great appreciation for that side of it. Obviously, we're moving forward as a program without him.
That's Josh Heupel after the orange and white game on Saturday. Joe, we were just talking in the break. Ian came in here and told us about just some of the clips he had cut up. I thought on Saturday, and granted, the bar for this is not very high, admittedly. I thought that was one of his best press conferences that I've seen from Heupel on Saturday. I mean, I thought he was going to go in there and just shut it all down and not really talk about any of it. He did not. I think one time he said he didn't really want to get into the specifics of one question, but other than that, like, he pretty much just kind of laid it all out there on Saturday.
I agree. It was probably his best presser, which, again, I'm sure Tennessee fans are like, oh, great.
Yeah.
So glad that you guys liked his presser off this. How exciting. But, yeah, I mean, I thought he was good. He was revealing, as you said during the break, probably spurred on a little bit by how pissed off he is about the whole thing, which I totally understand.
I knew he was mad when he threw it out there that he was like, he got asked, like, basically, like, when did you know that he wasn't going to be your quarterback anymore? It was like, yeah, when he was a no-show on Friday at practice. I had a pretty good idea at that point. It's like, oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. No, it was you saw some real stuff there from him. And again, it's one of those things where this isn't it's out of nowhere for the public, not out of nowhere for him, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, all the back and forth, but you can trace some of this going back, and it's just it's such bad decision making on the part of, again, Team Nico. I'm gonna say Team Nico. I'm gonna put it off on his dad way more than on him. I mean, but I don't know how all the conversations went, but it just real bad decision making.
Well, and as we go through this has been going on for a while from the Nico Iamaleava side of things. Josh Pate on his show last night had some really interesting comments about the college football playoff and Nico and some potential threats that were made at that point, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show as well. But this has been going on for a while from the Nico side of things. So this is how it's ended up. He's gone, and now he's out there floating in the wind in the transfer portal, we think. And we'll see what Tennessee does from here. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kenny the mailman. Kenny, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody gets off to a safe work week this week. Joe, this is more of a reporting question I wanted to ask you because it's in your wheelhouse. What happens, when a reporter, and if something in your past, if you could talk about, what happens when a reporter has to talk about a story that a lot of people or a big segment is not going to like? If you notice, a lot of people started hollering at this reporter, fake news, you're a liar. You're just wanting to stir up trouble. Is there a vindication process? Did some people show class and apologize for what they said? And what is it like when you have to report something a lot of people don't want to hear? Good to talk to y'all.
Thank you, Kenny.
Hey, thanks, Kenny. Okay, so we have a topic for the rest of the show. I've got 3 hours of talking about this. I know you've just brought up all these, deep-rooted feelings of anger. No, I mean, well, first of all, with this situation with Pete Nakos, and I hope I'm saying his name right. It's not Nakos.
Could be Nakos.
It's true.
I don't know.
Yes, but Pete from On 3,
Big Pete,
who does a lot of reporting on the portal and is a reliable reporter, has proven to be, a good, reliable reporter. I don't know that I've seen him come back, but his boss, Shannon Terry, has definitely gotten some vindication and ripping the people on social media. And again, I don't blame those guys. And Ari, our buddy, my old coworker, our friend of the show, Ari Wasserman, has gone out there a little bit too and said, hey, idiots, you going to apologize? I mean, that's, look, social media, there's just so many things. This happens a lot, right? And again, it never makes sense. It's like, yes, you're just trying to stir something up. Yeah, you're right. I'm just coming out of nowhere with this just because it would benefit me to get you all angry for no reason to make something up. No, it totally makes sense. But I think for the most part, if you're him, and I think that's what he's done, you just keep doing your job.
Yep.
You know? And then hopefully you have other people who are screaming at them. They've got some people over there who are screaming at Vol Twitter. So, but I wrote about how a lot of Vols fans yelled at him, and then I got people in my comments saying, that's a bunch of BS. But I'm like, God, look, if you want to go look at his mentions, we can do that together.
Yeah, they're pretty readily available.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot. What is a lot? I have no idea what percentage of the Tennessee fan base went to kill the messenger when this happened. I don't know. I mean, it's probably not a huge amount of people.
But there's a lot of Tennessee fans.
Exactly. It's like anything is a lot, right? A lot of Tennessee fans also were probably level-headed and like, well, let's see how this plays out.
Yeah.
This guy has reported accurately before on stuff. Let's see.
Yeah.
People get mad, man.
People get
emotional quickly.
There is no doubt about that. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Nate to the program. Nate, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
I think we're asking too much if we're asking someone to be level-headed on social media, but that's just me.
Fair point. It is fair.
Robby, you had said earlier in the last segment that Josh Heupel's tenure was going to be based on Nico, and I mean that'd be fair if he was still around. I don't think this letting go of Nico should be on Josh Heupel at all. I think the university did the right thing based on what we heard through the grapevines from teammates. You can't let a single player hold an entire team or university hostage. And I mean, Josh Heupel obviously was going to steal what I was going to say. It's unfortunate, but it's just the landscape we're in. My question for y'all is, if Nico was, and I know this is a long stretch, but if Nico was a highly touted prospect and something like this happened, what would the NFL think? Because, I mean, obviously NFL is all about team guys, and obviously this is not a team guy. Yeah. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Nate. The last part of it's interesting. I mean, some of this, if he goes out there wherever it is next year and he plays really, really well, let's say he gets the deal he's looking for. Like, some of it's just going to be, there are no guardrails in college football. This is what it is, and I got the best deal for me. I saw a lot of people making a lot of the NFL part of this. Number one, let's see the season he has and whether or not the NFL is on his radar after this year. But number two, like, if he goes out there and he gets paid a lot of money and he ends up playing really well in the next situation that he's in, is this going to come up? Of course it is. Like, the way that he's handled this, and specifically, you're right, Team Nico has handled this, it's going to come up. Some people are treating this as if this is like some insurmountable obstacle that he's going to be able to not overcome at the NFL level next year. And I think we all know that if he plays well enough, that part of it really won't matter all that much.
No, I mean, again, this is where the comparison works with. So we're talking about someone holding someone hostage to get more money. So, like, what do coaches do? I mean, right? Like, coaches set the culture in the NFL. They want unselfish, but they also then go to other jobs, don't they? I mean, he overplayed his hand. This is like being delusional about what you are or what you can get, but like, and I know it's a holdout, so it's different in college football. I don't think it means much. Again, if he's good enough, of course it'll come up and they'll talk about it. And I hope what he does is say, guys, now that I'm, coming to the NFL, I have a little more autonomy. I had no autonomy. My dad, Nico Iamaleava, here, let's bring him in. You ask him what happened, because he screwed the whole thing up.
Yeah, exactly. There's part of that too. To be clear, on the Heupel part of this, we were talking last year about when, the Heupel era largely was going to be defined, we thought, at that point, by Nico Iamaleava. And how good or not good was he? Obviously, the dynamic has now shifted since then. Now, look, there are some questions about Josh Heupel that I've got through all this, both how we've gotten to this point and now where it's going. Because, look, I know that Tennessee fans are galvanized right now, and it's like, well, he's gone. We got our guys in there now. The bottom line is right now, they're not a very good football team. And I know people don't want to hear that, but they've got total unproven players at quarterback. They've got a guy who may or may not be ready to be a starting quarterback in Merklinger. I have no idea, but there's a pretty good chance that he is not ready to be a starting quarterback, and we'll see if they go find somebody in the portal. But right now, like, they may be like 7-5 football team. So are you okay with that? Because that may be what they are at the moment.
Yeah. It's almost like in the NFL, like we talk about, it's like Brian Callahan. So if they get the young QB, then, it's about like development and your record doesn't matter as much. I mean, I do think I think this has changed that whole thing with Heupel, right? Right now, Heupel's approval rating very high in how he handled this. And obviously, I don't think people are going to blame him if they go 7-5 this year.
I know this
as
place.
much. Well, yeah,
they will.
No, you're right.
This thing will change very quickly.
Yeah,
if they're not good this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, so how does it look?
Yeah.
Like, did they improve some things? Is it just like, okay, well, they were just missing the QB, and now next year Faison's coming in, and even though, like you said, well, first of all, does that happen? Let's see, but also. True freshman in this offense, it's not really.
Let me know when he's a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's interesting because I do feel like there's probably more grace here bought for Heupel. This situation is the biggest situation in sports right now.
Yeah.
And so I think there will be. But you're right. Once you go through the process of it, and then people are going to look up and say, okay, so what has this guy done?
Right.
Now, he did make the playoff last year.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question of what happens from here. We're going to get into that coming up next. Take your thoughts on the Nico Iamaleava situation. He is out as Tennessee quarterback. How did we get to this point, and where do the Vols now go? We'll have more on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Vols. Nico Iamaleava gone at Tennessee. How did we get to this point? And what is next for Tennessee at quarterback? Josh Heupel, after the orange and white game, was asked about, hey, at what point did you know that Nico probably wasn't going to be your quarterback anymore? Here's what Josh Heupel had to say on Saturday.
Yeah, Josh, without getting into those details, when was it apparent to you that you would be moving forward?
Friday morning, when he's a no-show, you come off the practice field and there's no communication.
So that was Heupel on Saturday.
There you go.
Pretty direct there. Yeah, when he didn't show up to practice and you come off the field and I had no idea where he was. That's when I had a pretty good idea that he wasn't going to be the quarterback anymore.
That'll do it.
So how do we get to this point?
So dumb.
How has it gotten to what, again, as we'll get into a little bit later, it's not necessarily a new thing. There have been some discussions going on here for a while between Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava. But how did it get to the point where he's in spring practice the whole time? Like he's a participant in spring practice. And then the day before the spring game, he no-shows. And by the time the spring game rolls around, he's no longer a member of the football program. It's a quick escalation.
Yeah, to me, it's just as simple as Team Nico decides that that the transfer portal must be used for leverage. That wasn't enough money, and so again, they're out. It appears back channeling, trying to shop him, and usually. If you're going to try to ask something like this, it better be because someone else is actually pursuing you. And then if another coach is going to call, your coach and be like, "Hey, by the way, this happened." I mean, this is serious overstepping. Again, it's just I just really don't believe that Nico did any of this. Nico himself, and I know that he's like, the public enemy number one. I think I have no idea. Maybe he was like, screw that, man, I'm not going to practice. But I think he was told not to go to practice. And hopefully like he and like these coaches can at least like have actual conversations amongst themselves. I mean, I never had any. I thought Nico was liked by his teammates, did all the right things, was everything you wanted. He wasn't good enough last year. He wasn't great last year, but there was other than like not showing up to like autograph stuff a little bit. There's a little bit of that, like not doing the NIL stuff that's, that you're supposed to do. No indications that he was any sort of like an issue or a problem. So to me, his stupid dad decided to, let's use this portal. We can get this up to, get this up from 2.4 to 4 or whatever it is. And it's like, I'm sorry, but like it's not warranted. Unless there is somebody out there banging down the door, which, again, that's a big problem with the system is that it is constant free agency, and so this happens all the time. Someone said on the text line, and I agree, we said it last week, if he was awesome last year, he'd have that money right now. We would never would have heard anything about it. They would have done it. They would have taken care of it. Once this stuff gets public, clearly both sides are completely at odds, and I'm sure as much as Tennessee, as much as Heupel is probably upset about losing Nico, and as much as they know, like you said, this team is not as good without Nico, I bet you they're like, Nick Iamaleava, get the hell out of my life and stay out of my life. I bet you it is like, whew, good riddance on that one.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And now the question becomes, what does Tennessee do at quarterback? You have 2 scholarship quarterbacks right now. So Heupel said Saturday they're going to get one. They're going in the portal, and they're going to go get a quarterback. Now, is that going to be a starting quarterback? Is that going to be a quarterback that adds depth to the room? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. But he said Saturday that they will be going into the portal and trying to get a quarterback. So my question is, if you're a Tennessee fan, what do you want to see him do? Because there's a lot of, Merklinger and McIntyre. That's our quarterback room. Like one of those 2 guys got to be the quarterback next year. And I understand it. Like Tennessee fans are riled up right now. I do not think that's a good idea. I do not think one of those 2 being your starting quarterback next year is a good idea. I think you need to go get someone in the portal. And quite frankly, like this is what college football is now. maybe somebody that you don't think is going to be available in the portal do a little bit of tampering. That's what goes on in college football. Like,
Absolutely.
so that is the route I would like to see them take, because frankly, if they don't, like, I think it could be, I'm not going to say a rough year, because I think they've got a good baseline of talent. But unless I am just totally wrong and blown away by one of these two young quarterbacks, you can probably kiss competing for a college football playoff spot goodbye at that point, which maybe you could have anyway. Like I said it Friday, like I think they're worse than they were last year. They're certainly more unproven than they were last year. I mean, they got a receiving room that even a guy like Matthews, who we think is going to be really good, he hadn't done anything in college football yet. So there's not a lot there on the offensive side of the ball that is proven at this point. And now you take Nico out of it and you're just totally unproven at quarterback. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do at quarterback from here.
Yeah, I think Heupel made it clear. Like you said, Heupel made it clear that, to me, that he didn't come out and say this in so many words, but even saying, we got to go get another quarterback. Yeah, you can always play that off as, well, we got to have more depth in the QB room, but everybody knows what QB rooms are these days. If you have 2 scholarship guys, you're actually doing okay.
Yeah.
I think, to me, he was saying, you got to get a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Can they? Who can they get? I don't know, but I'm with you. This is what teams do. They back channel and tamper. And so can they pry, because the options of like actual like available,
it's not great.
It's not great. So can they pry someone who was planning to start for someone else away from them?
Well, and again, look, people are going to hear what I just said, that Nico is gone, and now I'm really worried about quarterback as like some validation that he is an unmistakably great player. I don't know. Like, I thought he was good last year as a freshman. He was not great. He was not what he was billed up to be. But there were some flashes throughout the season, notably in the second half against Alabama. I thought he played pretty well for the most part after that game. But there were some flashes where he made some throws. It's like, wow. I mean, look at that throw by Nico. He missed way too many of them. And his numbers were not good last year. So I'm not sitting here acting like Nico Iamaleava was Peyton Manning this year. But there is a baseline of ability there where part of what the story was going to be for them this year was whether or not he could elevate the talent around him. And I don't know. Maybe he would have. Maybe he wouldn't have. Now that's a huge question at quarterback. Like, now that they're in a bad spot at quarterback right now, and we'll see if they can get their way out of it.
Yeah. I came away from last year a little bit underwhelmed. I mean, obviously you're hoping that after that year of sitting out, all the talent is all going to come together. Also, and I think that this was part of the actual, like, this was a complaint from Team Iamaleava, from Nick, that I think was valid, which is like, protection's got to be better. Like, he didn't have a great offense around him. So at times I think that he was betrayed by what was around him. Also, I think Josh Heupel called games in a way that told me he didn't necessarily trust the kid.
Yes.
And again, he's a redshirt freshman. So should you immediately give everything over to your first-year starter and say, oh, yeah, let's just wing it around the field? There's a difference between that, like Hendon Hooker as a fourth-year player in college football, right? But I came away from last year thinking, yeah, he could still be really good. He could take a big step, and then you give him a little bit better support. Can you get a number 1 receiver in this program? Is Mike Matthews going to be that? All that stuff. So now you have all those questions, and who the heck is playing quarterback?
Well, and by the way, again, we're going to focus a lot on quarterback today. I'm really interested to see this week, like, the portal opens up with Nico gone. Does somebody hop in there? Like, are there guys that say, all right, that's not really what I signed up for next year? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, apparently the Matthews thing, that was Team Iamaleava got involved in that. Or, again, you can say it Nico if you want. And so he gets more money. So, yeah, does he now say, okay, well, my guy is not throwing passes to me anymore? Yep. Or maybe, do they wait and see? Which, can Heupel get somebody?
Right.
Then maybe I'll stay.
How long you wait? That's it. Portal's not open forever.
This is a big week.
It is. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Chris in Atlanta. Chris, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. So I think this is sort of just indicative of, college football as a whole. There were issues I think around January, when the University of Miami was kind of searching for a quarterback to replace, hopefully, Titans' future first-round pick, Cam Ward, they tried to go after Nico, and they ended up with Carson Beck, who signed for a $4 million deal. So I wonder if this is just, one quarterback that's kind of resetting the market, with Carson Beck, now at Miami, and then maybe the Underwood kid that's at the University of Michigan now earning bukus of dollars, and he's not even played a snap yet. I wonder if the collectives and the schools need to come out as a whole and say, look, we're not going to pay you freshmen who have not played one snap or one down a bunch of money like we did with Nico or we would with Underwood or however. I think something needs to happen in terms of college football, the entire landscape, to kind of reel this in, because I hate the fact that it happened to Tennessee, but the signs were on the wall that, this was coming. It only takes one quarterback to kind of hold out to kind of, trigger the college football landscape in this case. So, yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that. Where do we need to go in terms of college football as a whole? But yeah, it's a messed up situation, but we'll see how it goes.
Thanks,
you,
Chris.
guys.
Appreciate it. A couple things on that real quick, and then we'll come back, take more phone calls. I hear what he's saying on the freshman part of this, of like teams not paying freshman quarterbacks, high level recruits, especially, a lot of money. Under the current setup, it's just hard to do that. Like you want, if you're these programs, do you want to commit that much money to them? No. You also want to make sure that you land them, and unfortunately, that's how you do it right now. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be some groundswell of change on that front, because under the current setup, and you got to make sure you go get those guys if you're these programs. So we'll see what happens on that front. More of your phone calls to get to coming up next. We got a whole lot more coming on the Tennessee and Nico situation. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Taking your thoughts on the Nico Iamaleava situation with the Vols. Let's head right to your phones. Let's welcome in Steve in Franklin to the program on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Steve, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning. My first reaction was when I first heard this and how much money he wanted was good riddance. I thought, last year he lit it up against the non-conference games, but the conference schedule, he's pretty hit and miss. He played very poorly against the two games they lost, Arkansas and Georgia, and the Kentucky-Mississippi State games. They wanted to spite at him. And if somebody wants to pay him that much money for being a better a running quarterback and not a passing quarterback, and so be it. But for a quarterback who cannot he holds on to the ball too long, and he missed a lot of open throws last year. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad he's gone.
Thanks for the call, Steve. Appreciate it. I mean, that's, I think, a popular sentiment that we've heard from Tennessee fans since Saturday when all this was finalized. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Tim to the program. Tim, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. Listen, first of all, I think this is hilarious. Last year at the beginning of the season, everybody was talking about how Nico was going to win a Heisman this year, and he was going to win maybe 2 or 3 before he left. And Tennessee is not they're to blame as much as Nico is. They gave the largest contract, an NIL contract at the time, to an 18-year-old high school senior, $2+ million per year. So what do they expect when they give a kid that coming out of high school who's never played a snap in college football?
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you, Tim. Tim seemed like he was taking some joy in that.
Yeah, I know that.
This is hilarious.
I should have asked him, Tim, who are you a fan of, Tim? Not the Vols. But no, I mean, hey, first of all, if you're another fan base, you should probably have some fun at Tennessee's expense right now. And I understand what he's saying. Look, Tennessee was out front. Okay, yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, but I can't sit here right now and say they were wrong. I mean, it didn't work out well. It didn't work out like they hoped. You can see the talent with the kid.
Well,
and that's what it was. That's what it is.
We've talked about this when all this started. These 5-star kids that are getting recruited, especially at that position, that are making a ton of money. There are going to be some of those that come in and they're probably worth even more than they're getting paid with the way that they play, the impact that they have, quite frankly, the revenue that they generate. Like there's going to be some that work out that way. And then there are going to be some, and we'll see what happens with Nico as he moves forward here, but there are going to be some, regardless of the program you think, that you paid a ton of money to, that 2 years in, you're like, good Lord, like what did we do that for? Like why in the world did we give this guy money? That's going to happen. I mean, look, before all these kids were quote unquote getting paid, that's what 5-star quarterback was anyway. There were some that came in that were awesome, and then there were some that were 5-star quarterbacks that never saw the light of day.
And by the way, many of them got bags of cash too.
Exactly.
So let's also remember that. But it wasn't this level of money, for sure.
I said earlier in the show, I think this is going to be a big marker on the Heupel tenure at Tennessee. How does he pivot from here? Because, look, I know everybody's fired up right now. Like Tennessee fans are like, Heupel's our guy. And, Heupel came out the other day and said that no one's above the power T, not even myself. And, look, Tennessee fans are – even people who were out on Heupel that I've seen, they're like, oh, we'll never win the big one with Heupel. On Saturday, they were like, that's my guy. Like, I love Josh Heupel.
That's my coach.
Exactly. So, look, I get all that right now. It's April. When the fall rolls around, number one, what does he do at quarterback here in the portal? But number two, can he salvage this? Like, if they go 6-6 next year, I'm here to tell you, I know Tennessee fans are fired up right now. If they don't have a good fall, people will turn on him. I have seen this. It will happen.
And can also go back and see you screwed up from the start with Nico.
You should have had better foresight. Like the conversation will change if they don't win football games. See, I think people need to be prepared for that.
I think that's fair. I'm actually here for him figuring it out. Either like one of these kids, or they bring in somebody They go 10-2.
That could happen.
And then Brent Venables gets fired, and the Oklahoma offers him double his salary.
Yeah.
No one's bigger than the T. But bye, everybody. I'm going back to Oklahoma.
I mean,
I hate you, Josh Heupel.
Again, like I have seen enough from Heupel to know that he's a good coach. Like I think Heupel's a really good coach. Is he ever going to win a national championship at Tennessee? I have no idea. Like we'll see what that looks like. But I am interested to see where things turn from here. Like you're good. This is a guy that, as the caller just said, they invested a lot of money in and was supposed to be a guy that led them to the promised land. And you got 1 year as a starter out of him. So how do you pivot from here if you're Heupel? That's going to be what his next move is, and what they do from quarterback from this point on, I think is largely going to define his tenure at Tennessee. Like that next move at quarterback, I think is going to be a big part of his story that's told at the end of the day.
So it's like the same time, like as we talked about, it's the same timeline. Like this was going to define it. Like, okay, now you're in the prime of Nico. Can you actually have a legit team, or is your ceiling sort of like, like really good teams and consistently good teams? So now it's the pivot, but it's the same time frame. Like right now, he's in a very critical part of his tenure. I do think with some people, this may buy him a little bit of time. But I mean, I hear what you're saying, man. You go 6-6 and it looks bad next year. There's some people
are fired
that will
up
not
now.
have grace for you.
The grace, I've seen this fan base. The grace subsides when you're losing. That's just what it is, and it happens quick with this fan base. Quick, and I don't know that they're going to look. They may come out and win. Maybe Jake Merklander is better anyway. Like he may get out there and just absolutely light it up. I have no idea. I have no idea what to
no one
expect
had
from
any
that
expectations for Hendon Hooker.
Right. So that may happen. And look, Heupel, as he pointed out Saturday, which I did take note of, he made sure to point this out. He has developed a lot of different quarterbacks. So maybe he does it again. I'm just saying this is clearly not a part of his plan, and now he's got to pivot. So how well does he pivot? That's going to be a big part of how his story is told. We'll have a lot more on this coming up next. What are your thoughts to get to on Nico Iamaleava and the Vols? Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning. Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel will be with us at 7:30. Cory Curtis from News 2 for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock. So lots to come on the program. By the way, shout out to Rory McIlroy yesterday for winning the Masters. I haven't even mentioned it yet, but there's a lot going on right now. Great Masters.
An hour in. Yeah. Bad timing by the NBA to put my Warriors on at the same time, or I would have watched,
I'm sure you would
down the stretch. I would. I usually watch some Sunday Masters, but I've seen the highlights and the winning putt, man. Talk about someone ugly crying on a green. My God. His entire body was gyrating with the sobs. It's like, dude, that's pretty awesome.
There he goes.
There it is.
He's just losing it out there. Good stuff yesterday.
That is pretty cool.
Well, it's not necessarily a great performance from him yesterday, but
just all over the place.
He won.
Just an absolute roller coaster. But no, so that's the first career Grand Slam since Tiger, 20-some years ago, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's hard to do.
6th player in history. So pretty good stuff there from Rory McIlroy. Taking your thoughts on the Vols, 615-737-1025. All right, so there's obviously been a ton of reaction to this, not only throughout our show today, keep them coming on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, but also throughout the landscape of college football as well. And a lot of reaction around the world of football in terms of what is this going to mean moving forward? Like, with Tennessee drawing a line in the sand here, is that going to change the way that people operate moving forward? Brian Kelly from LSU earlier this weekend was talking about how he feels like this may happen more moving forward with the Nico situation. So going to be interesting to see how that part of it shakes out. Josh Pate, who obviously runs his own show as a part of CBS Sports, did a really interesting show last night where a lot of screaming being done about where college football is right now and how we got into this situation. And he brought up an interesting comment regarding Nico Iamaleava and the college football playoff and some of this dating back even to that point. Here's what Josh Pate had to say on his show yesterday.
A lot of the people who have been pushing for the changes that are happening in the sport, they would call them progress. I would call them just changes. A lot of the stuff they told you didn't have to worry about, a lot of the stuff they told you that wouldn't happen, it's funny how it keeps happening. These are the same people who would tell you players would never opt out of playoff games. If we had more playoff games and less meaningless bowl games, then players won't opt out of playoff games. That same crowd fails to mention that this past December, cats like Nico Iamaleava almost held out of playoff games because they were trying to renegotiate contracts in the middle of a playoff run. He wasn't the only one. But just understand, all these people who cannot take a piss without getting the front of their pants wet, that claim to know what's best for this sport and claim to be visionaries, and boy, they can type a lot of words per minute, can't they? They have not the slightest clue what's best for this sport. And so we've taken the stance on this show for the past several months that we'll just ignore them. I don't really care. I don't care if you label me anti-players' rights. I don't care. I am pro-college football.
That's Josh Pate on his show.
Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about, Josh? Who are you talking about there? I feel attacked.
Do you feel like
How do you know that I pee my pants that often?
What's your words per minute? Is it high?
It's pretty high. And I am a visionary. That's an interesting segment. First of all, in the middle of that rant, that's a real interesting nugget. I mean, you failed to mention, sorry, I didn't know. Did you know this? No. I didn't know this. I didn't realize that was common knowledge that Nico tried to hold out during the playoff game. But yeah, that's a real problem if that's the case. And there are others too. I still think there might be a little bit lower opt-out rate for a playoff game. I don't know. Than the Beef O'Brady Bowl. I could be wrong. But no, that's a really interesting nugget there. And boy, talk about just, again, whatever. We'll just say Team Nico. I feel like he's a passenger in this whole ridiculous thing. But regardless, that's absurd.
Well, Pate explained it a little bit further, and it was a long explanation that's probably not worth grabbing the clip, but I'll just sum it up for you. His thought on it was basically this: like, people, not just Nico, but trying to renegotiate and get more money for the college football playoff. And basically what he said was the thought process behind it from their agents was, well, he's getting paid this amount of money to play in 12 regular season games and maybe a conference championship game. Well, now he's playing in more. There's more games in the college football playoff, so he needs more money. That was basically the thought.
So again, I'd like to know what Josh Pate thinks about that. I'm going to go back and listen to that, but I'd love to know what he thinks about the idea that that's why if you had actual like in the NFL, the same thing, right? You might play 3-4 more games than you signed up for. I mean, there are like some playoff bonuses, but basically your contract is your contract, right? So actual contracts, actual certified agents, actual time frame, whatever that may be, it's probably like 2-year deals. Is this not the answer? I don't have another one.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got to get there at some point, and that's got to be the answer. Are we going to get there? I don't know. I mean, look, the revenue sharing is coming, right? So we know that is coming. How much is that going to change things moving forward? I guess we'll see. But again, as we've talked about, until you solve the transfer portal problem, you just stuck with a whole bunch of issues in college football.
If you can constantly move, then the money. I mean, it's about the money. It's trying to get more money. But if you can constantly move, then everybody's screwed.
Exactly.
I mean,
you can't enforce anything.
Yeah. So again, if you have some level of the labor, which is what it is, they are labor, can bargain for deals, then you set parameters, then you set boundaries on time when you can go, how often you can go, all that stuff. I mean, I don't have another answer. I know there's some lawmakers out there who have some wild stuff, like, that like basically taking the money away. Yeah. And I think what the NCAA really wants is that we just go back to bags of cash under the table. And then every once in a while, you can make an example of someone, but for the most part, just, see no evil, hear no evil, and just move forward. But
good luck with that.
It's just, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of problems. Think about, I was thinking about this the other day as I'm writing about this. It's like, whatever we get to, there's still like someone has to supply the money. The people who supply the money are the boosters, right? I mean, that's and they are already they are being tapped heavily on this. There's booster fatigue is a real thing out there. So they're basically like kind of like the owners. If you're collective bargaining, yes, it's with the school and they have other sources of revenue, but like largely you're kind of bargaining with the money people, right? Well, the money people in the NFL, they own teams that will end up that increase in value and they make money.
Right.
Like these boosters get access.
Yeah.
Like is this just an endless supply? With some people it is. Some people are so rich. The Texas Tech got their billionaire and T. Boone Pickens. But, I mean, for a lot of people, it's like at some point, man, I'm really like, okay, great. I get to fly on the team plane and I got the best tickets and stuff, but I'm not like making money off this. That's another thing.
The return on investment is supposedly like the joy you get from watching your team win.
My kid got to play catch with Nico in the yard.
Exactly.
That's exciting for a while, but now he left.
I did see I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but I did see a Tennessee fan the other day that says, "Hey, can I get like my refund back for the talent fee I paid? Like if he left, like did I get the talent fee back?" Just tag Danny White in it. You guys offer refunds on the talent fees that you charge? I don't think so.
That's a good point.
I think you're getting that back. Remington on the text line says, another rumor out of Knoxville is the day that it was announced the Tennessee rep was meeting with a quarterback in a Power 4 conference. They got tipped off by Dan Lanning and were semi-ready to deal with this problem. This is from Remington on the text line.
I'm ready to find out who it was at 9:08 today, right after our program.
Can't wait. I mean, look, in all seriousness, and I know like there are some people that hate this idea, and I get it. Like, a couple things on this that are really general takeaways for me. There are some exceptions to what I'm about to say, but I think the quicker that people realize that quote unquote loyalty is not really a thing in college sports and specifically college football anymore, the quicker that people realize that, I think the better off we're all going to be. Like every now and then you'll run across some guys that are like, look, man, I've always wanted to go to Tennessee. Tennessee was where my parents went. I love Tennessee, and I don't care that, Oklahoma's over here offering me a ton of money. Tennessee's where I want to be. Are you going to run by that on occasion? Sure you are. By and large, this is a business, and loyalty does not really exist. So I think we got to get that out of our head, out of our lexicon as college football fans. The other part of this is as I look at the way that this is all gone down here. If you're Tennessee, you just basically got screwed by the way this system is currently set up. And I know that that's rubbed Tennessee fans the wrong way. You also now have the opportunity to go do it to somebody else. And I know that doesn't sound fun, and that's not the way it probably should be. But unfortunately, right now, that's the way the game is played. And if I'm Tennessee, I'm trying to go do it this week in the portal and go grab some quarterback somewhere.
Yeah. And they look like they all complain about this stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and they all have to scout other teams, and they all have to be prepared to this. And frankly, I mean, it's just like again, the bags of cash before. If you had a highly competitive power league team, football or basketball, and then you think that your coach is the one who wasn't cheating, you're probably wrong. Okay. Like, you have to play the game to some point. You have to swim in those waters. Same thing with this. You have to do that stuff. So I have no doubt Tennessee has done it, has had it done to them, and is doing what they need to do now to be good next year. You have to.
You have to. And whether or not they're successful in that and they land some high-level quarterback in the spring, I don't know. We're going to find out. But I think you got to be turning over every rock right now if you're Josh Heupel in that program. 615-737-1025, our phone number. There is a Titans thought I want to get to. We'll do that a little bit later in the show. We'll keep going with a lot of your reaction right now on the Tennessee front with Nico Iamaleava. Keep those thoughts coming. We'll get to some of your thoughts on our phone and text lines coming up next. Adam Sparks from Knoxville News Sentinel will be with us at 7:30. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
excited about, where we're at this point. Man, there's a lot of work for this team to go continue to grow, to have the ability to chase the things that we want to in the fall. But, we're where we need to be as well. And our coaches and staff, guys have been here over the last 4 years, have rebuilt this program, and it's built to win. And I say that as we're moving forward from today too. This program's ready to go win next fall. And as a program, since we've been here, we've won with a lot of different QBs, done it historically in my career with a lot of different QBs. Some of those guys have been older, some of them have been younger, but we'll have a quarterback that's ready to go win and help us compete for a championship.
That's very confident Josh Heupel after the orange and white game on Saturday. Kind of making the sales pitch there to other quarterbacks around the country there too, which I enjoyed. By the way, got some tickets to give away to see Cake at the Ascend Amphitheater this Saturday night. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 5. We'll see Cake at the Ascend Amphitheater and maybe Joe Rexrode this Saturday night.
You might see me this Saturday if you're at the Cake Show.
Might do that.
You might.
And it's a good combination. It's Cake and Ascend Amphitheater, which is right up your wheelhouse.
Absolutely. So Jared's texting me dumbass text, so I better talk about him now. So Jared's all mad. This part I don't really care about. He's all mad about me saying Nico's a passenger. Look, I have personal experience with Nico Iamaleava, okay? And by the way, people are saying that we're butchering the name. Am I not saying the name right?
It's Iamaleava.
I've been saying Iamaleava.
Yeah. Just big I. That's what you could call it. Iamaleava.
Iamaleava.
Yeah.
And I'm saying Iamaleava?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Iamaleava.
All right. Nick, but trust me, he runs the whole show. He runs it terribly. He has run it into the ground, okay? So Jared's all like, well, why can't we just call it like it is? Nico's a bleep head. Fine. If it makes you feel better, Jared, today at 2 to say this kid is the worst POS and this kid sucks, do it. I mean, ultimately, it's team, as I said, Team Nico. I think he's a passenger. I have no idea, the conversations between him, his dad, and his fake half agent. I don't know. I think he's a passenger, but that doesn't matter. I mean, the bottom line is he's out of there, and they screwed up. If you think it's the kid driving the bus, though, you're pretty stupid, and you don't understand. You haven't followed the situation at all. The kid's not driving the bus. No. Is he a total passenger? I don't know. Maybe he was also, yeah, Dad, I'm going to hold out. I'm excited for that. Maybe. But the bottom line is, this is the dumbest thing Jared sent me. Says, why does Nico acting like a bleep head? Jared's big on, again, as long as it has male genitalia involved, Jared likes talking about it. Why does Nico acting like a bleep head mean we have to change the system? Do you honestly think, Jared, we've been talking today like, well, golly, the system's been great, but this situation, that changes everything. I liked the system before, but now that Nico did this, now we need to change it. Yes, Jared. Go back to the freaking mock drafts if you can't pay attention at all to college football. Good God. The system is bleeped, and it has been. And we've been talking about this long before anything happened with Nico. Sorry.
Long fuse.
Back to, yeah. Well, I mean, I did have like the whole break to read these texts and read them over and over again, and then finally just like blow a top. Like, God, is this seriously coming into my phone right now? Is there any way to block someone? You can block someone's number, right?
Yeah, actually, I do that. Yeah.
No, we
block him or
talk about
mute him on
today.
Twitter, and then you will not be able to contact me at all.
There needs to be a feature where you can block a number for a certain window of time.
Yeah.
So like from 6 to 9, 6 to 10, 5:30 something, you just
You will
block
not
that number,
reach me.
and then you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
I also would like that in my personal life when I'm not on the air. Is there any way to get a restraining order for a coworker, even though they've not necessarily physically accosted you?
Yeah, maybe so.
We're going to look into these
worth
things.
Looking into. Yeah, I mean, look, here's another part about this. We talk about how quickly all this came together. All right, so they didn't practice Thursday. They had the day off Thursday. So they had practice Wednesday, the day off on Thursday, practice Friday. So by the time Friday morning rolled around, Nico didn't show up. You know where he was Thursday night, reportedly? At a quarterback dinner. Right. He was at a dinner with his teammates Thursday night. And then by the time Friday morning rolled around, He did not show up to practice. That's how quickly this whole thing fell apart.
This is secondary. It's a secondary matter. He's moving on. Tennessee, you got to worry about your next quarterback, all that stuff. But as time goes on, because I've seen a lot of former Vols, a lot of people have correctly ripped them for overstepping, for overplaying the hand. Totally fair. And a lot of former Vols have been like, this is total BS. What is this kid doing? But as time goes on, pay attention to what you hear from his teammates when they're asked about Nico.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to hear a lot of people say bad things about him. I mean, I saw like Kitzelman's
a little fired up right now.
Yeah, and he was like, well, I'm even more excited. It's not about one, and that's fine. But again, I'd like to tell him, like, yeah, man, like you can have a bunch of unselfish, sucky football players. You're not going to win any games.
Right.
You know? I mean, so you got to be a little bit real too. There's a lot of other guys on that team who have salaries.
Yeah, for
who
sure.
negotiated for more money at different points, right? This was
I did find like watching
total overplay.
Watching Kitzelman on Saturday was pretty funny because he kept getting asked about obviously this situation, and he would just look over at Bill Martin, their PR guy, and was just like,
Bill?
"Am I about to say what I think I want to say, or should I not?" Like it was pretty funny to watch that all go down.
But I'm just saying, like personally, I think Nico did the right things in the program. Got along well with his teammates, all that stuff.
Didn't really hear about any problems before.
It wasn't like a malcontent in the locker room.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel will join us coming up next. He was there on Saturday when all of this went down. He spoke with Josh Heupel in the aftermath of all of it as well. We'll get Sparks' thoughts on where Tennessee now goes from here with Nico Iamaleava out as quarterback. That's coming up next. Win an exclusive Keith Urban experience. All you got to do, text in the keyword Keith to 615-737-1025 and receive a link to sign up for a chance to win all-inclusive tickets to the Eurostone Club at Bridgestone Arena to see Keith Urban, plus also a chance to win $1,000 in cash as well. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning, talking Nico Iamaleava and the Vols. And to help us do that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel. Adam, good morning. How we doing?
I almost got out of spring practice with no drama. It was so close, so close.
You made it right to the end, my friend, and then it just all came crashing down. So close. So, Adam, let's just start here. As I know this is a long, complicated process here, but as best you can, how did we get to this point? How did we go from Nico Iamaleava in spring practice and all, I guess, from the outside seemingly well, to a couple days later, he's gone and is no longer a member of the football program?
Well, I mean, we knew late in the season that there was already some pressure being placed on Tennessee. I don't know if it was before the playoff necessarily, but it was around that time. They wanted more money. I know the big number, $4 million, that's been put out there. I think it was something around there. They wanted that then. They tried to leverage the transfer portal. This is Nico's team. I wouldn't say Nico, but Nico's team. Nico's dad, really, and one other individual. They tried to apply pressure using the transfer portal as leverage back then. Tennessee didn't give in. I think there was a mixed message, too, because I think Team Nico wanted more help at wide receiver, offensive line, but then also more money for Nico. And you have to think from Tennessee's perspective, you're thinking, well, do you want $1 million, $1.5 million more dollars, or do you want us to spend $750,000 on a wide receiver or $500,000 on a couple of linemen? Like, which one do you want? And I think they wanted all of that. And then the portal came and went. Tennessee was never going to pay him, the big number that he wanted. He bluffed till the end. I mean, I remember that at midnight when Mike Matthews supposedly was going into the portal, I was sitting up at 2 a.m. just to make sure that Nico didn't go in, because we thought he probably was back in the winter portal. Didn't happen. Tennessee called his bluff, didn't go in. And then you sort of just get the same thing going again in the spring portal. Different schools. I think Team Nico shopped him around quite a bit to get some leverage. But I think Tennessee sort of learned in time that some of the numbers that were being told back to them of what other schools would give Nico were very, very inflated. And that's the thing is, sometimes these collectives talk to each other, not in the moment, but at some point after that. And I think that's where things sort of got sideways. I mean, if you go into your boss's office and say, this other company is offering me X number of dollars, and then your boss picks up the phone and calls that other company, that better be true, what you're telling them. And I think that's sort of where things got sideways. And Tennessee thought the market is not what this guy's saying the market is. And that helped them dig their heels in the sand a little bit. Where we go from here is a different story, because Robby, I heard you saying earlier in the show that this narrative could change quickly, and I think it certainly could, depending on who Tennessee gets in the portal.
So, by the way, Sparks and I did not compare notes, but Team Nico, I think that's the correct, right? I mean, that's the correct way to put it, But regardless, I don't know all the conversations, but it's been pretty clear. Real quick before my actual question, Adam. Nick Iamaleava. Oh, my God. All of a sudden, he's out of the program, and I can't say the last name. Nick drives the bus. Right? I mean, this is something that it's very clearly and very poorly, by the way, I might add. But I wanted to you mentioned, not sure about the playoffs. So we played earlier a clip from Josh Pate about basically suggesting that this was a holdout to not play in the playoff game. Had you heard anything about like that?
I don't. Josh may know something that I don't. I listened to that. That was brought to my attention late last night within my own household.
Hey, Bev knows what's up out there, man. She knows what's going on.
Things are shouted down the hallway in statements as if it were fact. Nico held out of the playoff. No, honey, let me listen to that. I listened to the clip and another clip. Josh may know something that I didn't. It sounded more like he was generalizing, like players like Nico, players that are seeking money above other things like Nico. I think that I took that as more Josh lumping him in with an argument that he was making about these types of players in this environment in college football are producing these things. As far as Nico specifically holding out of the playoff, I mean, there's some gray area in there. I don't think that was ever a thing. I do think they were already trying to start the negotiations during December when the team was getting ready for the playoff. I think a holdout though is an ultimatum, and I don't know that Nico ever made an ultimatum about the playoff.
So Adam, where does Josh Heupel and this program go from here at quarterback? Obviously, you've got 2 scholarship guys that are there, and that was the story of the spring game on Saturday, was watching those 2 guys, Merklinger and George McIntyre. But Heupel made it clear they're going in the portal once this thing opens up here. Do you think it's for a starter? Do you think it's to add depth? Where do you think Tennessee tries to go from here at quarterback?
I think from the fan base perspective, this is going to be sort of like when you're tracking a coach search, where everybody is like super excited when you hear the first wave of names, right? Avery Johnson, Sam Levitt, these types. And then if you don't get those, then you go to the second tier and people sort of prop those guys up. I watch film of so-and-so. Yeah, he's being wasted at the school he's at. When he comes here, he'll be awesome in Josh Heupel's offense. If you get to the third tier of guys, then it becomes, then you start to get a little nervous. I mean, they're going to get somebody. I think the idea is for them to go get a starter. I mean, I asked a question in the presser the other day, and I used the language sort of giving Josh Heupel the chance to say whether or not he was getting somebody to compete with Jake Merklinger. They want Merklinger to stay. They want McIntyre to stay and be happy and all that. And so he did term it as, we have 2. So we kind of are forced to get a third quarterback because you don't want to go into a season with only 2 inexperienced quarterbacks. But I think they're definitely looking for a guy they think can start. I mean, the guy they would love to have is a guy who has 1 year of eligibility left or 1 year away from the draft. They can give them a couple $1 million, give them quite a big raise from wherever they're at, and, whatever they're getting where they're at now, and and then you can just go with 1 year and then reset a year from now. Whether they can get that guy or not, I don't know. I tend to think there's just as much of a chance that they get sort of a guy who can be your starter probably, but will definitely have to compete with Merklinger in the fall. I think we're probably, unless they get one of those names that I named off the top, I think you're probably looking at an August competition more than you are just a ready-made starter to come in. But I could be wrong. I mean, money talks, and if you can lure the right guy into the portal, then they're going to do that.
So, Adam, Josh Heupel, we were talking about earlier, might have been his best presser, his most revealing.
It was rehearsed. It was rehearsed. I'll say, Josh Heupel usually comes in and talks off the cuff. Josh Heupel had everything he wanted to say laid out, written out, rehearsed, thought through.
Well, he should do that more often then.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing.
But
you did hear some of his anger, right? I think it was in Gentry's question when he said, Friday we didn't show up practice, like we're kind of done. I think people have to understand this perspective. Josh usually doesn't reveal much of himself, but you got to think Josh Heupel was a top-level quarterback who, he was a Heisman runner-up, but and national championship winner. But not long before that, he was a junior college player that Oklahoma wasn't even really sure if they wanted. And his whole reputation was, I'm a team guy. I manage an offense. I motivate guys. I put the team ahead of me. All these things are in his head about what a quarterback is supposed to be. And I think he looked at that, and not to mention a coach's son who followed the directions of his dad. And now you're dealing with the dad and a son quarterback who doesn't seem to be showing any of the values that he values. And I think that ticked him off quite a bit. And I think that was starting to come through a little bit in that presser.
So fans, he gets off the bus, has huge wars, and there's this huge, yes, Josh, stick it to him, and no one's bigger than the power T and all this stuff, right? But what about this team now on the field next year goes 6-6, 7-5, doesn't look good. They don't have an answer at quarterback. How critical is this for Heupel? We figured this would be a critical year for him because it's okay, now Nico needs to mature and you need to take it to the next level. Obviously, that's not happening. Does he have more grace now because of all this? Or is it once you get the product on the field, then quickly it can turn the other way on him?
He'll get some grace from some of the fan base, but it could turn. I mean, with Nico, I thought they were 8-4 to 10-2. I thought they were maybe a fringe playoff team. I didn't think they would make the playoff. 8-4 to 10-2. I think with Merklinger, they're 6-6 to 8-4. So I think those they overlap at the 8-4 mark with another quarterback who knows. Yeah, I mean, if they go out and play pretty well and Merklinger or whoever the transfer is comes in and wins 8-9 games, he'll be given quite a bit of grace. And by the way, that's if Nico doesn't play lights out wherever he's going.
Yeah.
So Nico will be the villain in this for most people, that he sort of he derailed Tennessee's season and they made the most of it. And Josh Heupel did too. And look, Josh Heupel can still win 8-9 games with just a quarterback he throws in at the last minute, sort of like Hendon Hooker. But if this season goes south and they don't have an answer at quarterback and Nico plays pretty well somewhere else, or maybe even if he doesn't, and Mike Matthews doesn't get enough targets because the offense isn't going, and David Sanders isn't a star immediately, then the narrative is going to be this Josh Heupel doesn't know how to pick 5 stars. Mike Matthews it didn't pan out. Nico didn't pan out. They should have seen the character issues with the dad early on. David Sanders is not immediately awesome. We got to rethink Josh Heupel and all this. That if this season doesn't go well, that narrative will bubble up by September.
Adam, last thing for you here real quickly. This is obviously, the quarterback is going to be the headliner here. What about the rest of the roster? Do you expect now that Nico is gone for more guys to hit the portal in the spring? How do you view that part of it here?
Well, that's why they have to act quick and I think have to find the right quarterback because, Mike Matthews in December, January was keeping one eye on Nico and one eye on the portal. And I think Mike Matthews went into the portal or at least got this paperwork to go into the portal because he thought Nico was going also. And there's probably a couple of the guys on the roster that could do that. It's a little late in the game for these guys, though. I mean, if you're a 5-star quarterback, you can still get a suitor, but a lot of these guys can't just go parachute into somewhere in April and expect for things to work out like they would at Tennessee, where they would have a starting job. I like this offensive line probably a little more than most. I think the defense is still going to be pretty good. Depending on if Jermod McCoy gets back in time. I think this team is one, if you get the right quarterback and with that schedule, you can still have a similar season to what you could with Nico, but you've got to keep things together. And they got to go get a quarterback. I think they still need to get into the wide receiver. With or without Nico, They needed another wide out. And so, best case scenario, they go and get a premier quarterback and bring his receiver along with him. But I think that's probably pie in the sky.
Well, Adam, really good stuff, man. Busy weekend for you. We appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one.
You as well. Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. We got Cory Curtis coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll continue to break down the Nico and Tennessee stuff all show long. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
You know, I'm sure Josh Heupel's a nice guy, and he's done some good things as a coach. He should not be getting this job. I hate you, Josh Heupel.
What's your words per minute? Is it high?
It's pretty high, and I am a visionary. What are you talking about there? I feel attacked.
I had an accident.
You had an accident? What does that mean?
You! How do you know that I pee my pants that often?
Hey, look, everybody. Billy peed his pants.
Of course I peed my pants. Everybody my age pees their pants. It's the coolest.
Fly is open. Let's go pee.
That's right.
If peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
Don't worry.
It is that time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. Ian Safar coming in and immediately bringing the fire.
It's
good stuff.
Yeah, bringing in the fire that apparently I have to pee on to put it out. My goodness.
I will say
that was a hell of a mashup of some great.
One day we need to go back and just listen to the entirety of our show when Heupel got hired.
Oh yeah,
it's like, oh my God, who is this guy?
Oh man, we were not in favor of it.
Ugh. They could have had Gus Malzahn.
Tom Allen from Indiana, you idiots.
Great call by us.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Now Josh Heupel, VFL. Verified VFL.
Yep.
Until Oklahoma pays him double his salary next year. Fires by Venables. Okay, so I have three different texts I need to react to here. Okay.
Okay.
First of all, I'll go back to Stilly here because he's claiming that I intentionally omitted this. I'm sorry, like you keep texting me. I can't read every word you say. But here's the part that he said that I omitted. We'll make sure to say it so he can have his say. And then later today he can talk, Nico. Rah, rah. So he says Nico's a big boy. He's making $2.4 million. If he killed someone, he'd be charged as an adult. Got to be responsible for your own actions.
He would.
Fine.
Would be.
Fine. Again, I'm trying to tell you with actual knowledge of the situation that his dad drives the bus. You just heard Adam Sparks, who covers the Vols better than anybody else covers the Vols, tell you the same thing. I'm not saying like Nico is completely innocent. Leave him alone. He's a small child. I'm not saying that. But his dad drives the bus. His dad and their stupid fake agent thing, whatever they have going on, they've botched the whole thing. I don't think Nico botched the whole thing. I think he's doing what they tell him to do. You can still rip Nico, and people are going to boo him and hope he does poorly and all that stuff. I'm just trying to tell you the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
So take it or leave it. I don't know. You tell me. How do you process that? How do you deal with that?
No,
I'm not saying Nico is like,
yeah, like I don't know if he's totally
innocent.
some innocent party here, but I'm with you. Like I mean, all the noise around it is he's getting horrible advice, and he is following horrible advice. So again, like he is an adult. Like you have to own up to that, and the horrible advice that you're following. But yeah, like I think that's probably the driver here.
Anybody who has tried to like write about Nico or deal with the family at all will tell you his dad is a problem.
Yeah.
And I will also tell you, as someone who's been doing this for a long time, the quarterback dad in college football, I tell you what, it is a special breed. Not all of them. Some of them are
Netflix
series. Some of them are totally fine. But like the extreme among the quarterback dads, oh boy, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's one. I've got also the texter here saying, I say let the kids play first and earn a paycheck before paying them. Okay.
No.
Then you won't get the kid.
That's the thing. Like,
I mean, you won't get the kid.
In a vacuum, I agree with you, but it's just not how it's going to go. Like it's with the way that the current setup is, if you want to land some of these recruits, you have to pay them. It's just the way it is.
And then finally, Josh, and these are unnamed. Josh has lost complete control of this program. You don't see players holding out anywhere else. Now, there's a new one.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe this is actually just an indication that Josh Heupel has lost control. He has a complete out-of-control program, and it's just about him, which is why this happens. So, yeah, we have a variety of opinions today.
Maybe so.
A smorgasbord.
Well, I said it earlier. Like I think it's going to be a marker on Heupel, where does he go from here? It was interesting to get Sparks' thoughts on the quarterback front of where they go. Like, can they go land a high-level quarterback in the transfer portal? Would Avery Johnson, who was at Kansas State, would he qualify for that? Like, I think he would.
I like him a lot.
If you got him, like, you'd probably feel pretty good about it if you're Tennessee. If not, like, if it is somebody that is like fringe starter, what does that mean, number one, for the quarterback competition in the fall, and number two, for their bottom line next year? Because I would agree with Sparks. Like, if Merklinger is the quarterback, you're probably looking at 7-5. Like, that would probably be where I would pick them to go. It's about 7-5.
Yeah. I'm not totally out on Merklinger. I think, he's a good athlete. He can run around. Like, if you had Avery Johnson, by the way, you're talking about, you could do some stuff with QB run stuff that they really haven't, they haven't had anybody like that. Right. But I think he could actually be pretty good. It's just like he's a redshirt freshman. Like, I don't know. But I think there's something there. I think as far as McIntyre, like he's a true freshman. It's just that I really doubt that's happening this year.
Yeah. Nor should it. Right. He's not ready. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Cory Curtis from News 2 will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Nico situation. Great Masters yesterday. Some Titans thoughts to get to with Cory as well. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. And as we do every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Cory Curtis to the program from News 2, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Cory, good morning. How are you?
I'm delightful. How are you this morning, sir?
I am doing great this morning.
Yep.
A wild weekend in Knoxville, Cory. So
it was.
Let's just get your thoughts on this. It goes from Nico Iamaleava apparently being at practice, ready to go on Wednesday. They didn't practice Thursday. He was at some team gathering Thursday night. And by the time Friday morning rolled around, he did not show up to practice. And by Saturday morning, he was not in the football program anymore. So what do you make of that development with Nico Iamaleava, and where does Tennessee go from here in your mind at quarterback?
You forgot the part where his father came out and said it all wasn't true. They were happy.
That's true.
So, it's crazy, and the part I always get back to is this. It's an ugly look because he was getting paid. He was getting paid handsomely. He has an agreement that he agreed to. What was it, 4 years and over $8 million? But the funniest part about the whole, not funny, but the when you look at it, bottom line, if they knew he was Heisman candidate, can win us a national championship, guess what? He would still be a Vol, and they would have found him more money.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's an insane situation, and obviously, if he warranted this would have been. I mean, I think Cory, if he warranted this, or they thought he was worth this, or there was actually a team that came after him so hard that they had to react, then this would have happened, and we never would have found out about it, right? I mean, it wouldn't even.
Yeah,
it would have happened behind closed door, which a lot of these things do. I mean, players get raised. Sometimes it does become a little bit of a public thing, but this is actually like a holdout. I mean, that's what this is. This is the first real like holdout, except that it's not in a league where you have any sort of like binding contracts. You don't have penalties. You don't have any sort of boundaries on when players can move. So if you're fixing this, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, the revenue sharing is coming, so we know that. But I think, they have to come up with some type of contracts where there are years in commitment involved. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I think there has to be some level of commitment there. But I mean, we act like, the Wild West is new to college football. It's not. It's been the Wild West for coaching for 50 years. The coaches don't hold the moral high ground here. They have come and gone as they pleased for more money for years. They've written greedy contracts for years. I mean, how many times do we hear about he has a contract that states he must be the highest paid coach in college football? Okay? So the coaches don't hold the moral high ground here. So I don't know that they're the ones to talk about fixing the situation, but as fans, I understand, the frustration, and, as schools, and, I understand some of the frustration. And I think what you're eventually going to have is you're going to have contracts. You're going to have, commitments for, 1, 2, and 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years. And it's what a player is willing to sign for. One of the big problems with scholarships has been those have not been guaranteed. Those are year-to-year situations. And so if you want to hold people, and I think this goes for coaches too, you have to have contracts that you can actually hold them to.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that part of it plays out on kind of like the grand scope of things. Like, so Tennessee, for basically deciding to move on from him and not playing the game, has received basically universal support out there. I mean, there's a lot of people like, yeah, good for Josh Heupel. Good for Josh Heupel. So I guess my question is this, Cory. They are unquestionably, as of today, and we'll see what they do in the portal, but as of today, they are weaker at the quarterback position than they were this time last week. So if it plays out that way and they're, I don't know, 7-5, in the fall. Is there grace given to Heupel? Like, how do you view how he is now viewed in the aftermath of this entire situation?
Well, I Jared Stillman and I talked about it last night, and I think he's absolutely right. I think this sets him up for a mulligan year if things don't go well, because people will always fall back on, oh yeah, that's when Nico bailed on us at the last second. So, I do think that this sets up Heupel, for a year where people will understand if they don't get enough at that position. What we're not talking about though right now is, think of all the schools, whether they be mid-majors or kind of secondary majors, that have a quarterback and are like, oh my gosh, this kid's going to enter the portal on Wednesday because he knows Tennessee needs somebody and he's going to get paid. All these schools are going to be scrambling to hang on to their quarterbacks right now.
Robby, are you giving Josh Heupel a
mulligan
no matter what?
We'll see how the year goes.
You go through enough, Luke, because I'm kind of with you guys, Cory, but I do you go through a painful year and lose a lot of games, and again, I think it was Sparks brought up earlier. It's like, and then also, what if like Nico actually goes somewhere and lights it up too?
Yeah.
And you can see how things
could,
the pendulum could swing the other way.
That's like the Titans with Cam Ward. If you don't take him and he goes and is Jaden Daniels somewhere, right, you're like, oh gosh, we look like total buffoons.
Cory, what did you make of the Masters over the weekend? It was a wild day yesterday. Rory looked like he was going to run away with it, and then it looked like he was going to blow it, and then he finally gets it done on the playoff hole there, becoming the sixth player in history to complete the career Grand Slam.
I thought he should have putted with his irons.
Yeah, no doubt.
he was hitting some fabulous iron shots, and then just couldn't knock some of those putts down. But look, the greens were, what they were. They were lightning fast and they were tough. And he said after, it was interesting to hear him talk about how nervous he was.
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of what makes the victory so great is, and gosh, we've seen it with Brandt Snedeker and other players, how much this win means to them. And, for Rory to, it almost feels like his career would have been incomplete if he had not been able to obtain this tournament championship, and playing against, some of the best players in the world. And, we've seen it. I mean, we talk about Jean Van de Velde, I don't know if younger people remember who he is, but, we've seen guys melt down, and then we've seen the effect, the long-term effect it can have on them. But, in this tournament on Sunday, there were plenty of opportunities for Rory to just go, oh my gosh, I've blown it, and fall apart. I mean, he had like 3 different points, I think, where he could have just fallen apart. But when he rallied on 15 to hit that iron shot into the green, it was like, wow, okay, that is greatness. To go 4 over 4 holes and blow a 4-shot lead and then come out and stick that golf shot, that was something. But then to blow it on 18 and come back and win it in the first playoff hole. It may not have been picture perfect, like Tiger running away with it and winning by 9,000 shots. But, the courage, the confidence, the wherewithal to persevere by Rory, I think is what was truly special for me.
We haven't talked about this at all today, Cory, but are the Titans taking Cam Ward?
Well,
we're going to try to avoid talking about it all week.
The fact that you that you are asking me at this point would lead me to believe that we are at that point. So, but I think that's it's got to be the right decision. I mean, yes, they need a lot of players, but they're not going anywhere without a quarterback, and you got to keep swinging it. ESPN, did you see the article ESPN had projecting like the 7 top quarterbacks in the draft?
Yeah.
And they put him at like a 1 in 4 chance of being a solid NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm like 25%, man. So, I mean, you talk about like buying a lottery ticket. I mean, that's buying a lottery ticket. You'd like to think with your first pick, you've got better than a 1 in 4 chance. Because, what would you say your chances are you're getting a Pro Bowl player in Travis Hunter?
Pretty high. More than 1 in
90-10?
4.
Yeah, it'd probably be 90%. Abdul Carter, you'd probably say 70%. But so, yeah, that's what makes taking quarterbacks so scary. I mean, Joe, and I'm sure Robby, you remember too, but, going back to Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was
I preferred Leaf.
That was a real conversation. That was a real conversation that went on and on and on and on and on. And there was a reason
Leaf
for
was
it.
insane at Washington State that last year. He was insane.
Well, and he was huge with a big arm. You don't know who always it's going to work out for. You don't know the situation that they're going to be in, if it's the right one, for them. And so it's kind of like giving birth. You just got to bite down on something and hope it all goes well.
Very
yeah,
good.
a bunch of dudes talking about how that is. That's a good idea. It doesn't hurt that bad.
Let's hope what comes out is something good. That's all.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end it than there. Cory, outstanding stuff as always. Thank you for being with us, and we'll talk to you next week.
We've all three of us have had children, so we all know that when you're waiting for your child to come out, all you're saying to yourself the whole time is 10 fingers, 10 toes, 10
That's
fingers,
true.
10 toes, 10 fingers, 10 toes. So right now, as the Titans turn in that card, they're just saying 10 fingers, 10 toes, 10 fingers, 10 toes.
And also that the man in the situation is really the one who has, that's the one who's
I'd
really
stand on
suffering,
my feet
right?
for a
I'm
while.
not saying we have to bite down on something. He has to bite down.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Cory.
You're welcome. You've got this for the next 10 years.
Oh, boy.
Cory Curtis from News 2, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode, illustrating it in a way only he can. Brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. We'll react to what Cory had to say there. Take your thoughts on the Vols coming up next. A lot more of your thoughts to get to on the Nico Iamaleava Tennessee situation. How did we get to this point, and where do the Vols go from here? More on that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. The Atlanta Braves country road trip coming to town, teaming up with the Nashville Predators in 102.5 The Game. Join us at the BetMGM Sports Lounge in Bridgestone Arena this Wednesday for a Braves watch party as they take on the Toronto Blue Jays at noon. There will be awesome giveaways, like a chance to win Braves tickets to a game of your choice every 30 minutes, plus Braves hats, T-shirts, autographed baseballs. First 15 people in the door will win a pair of Preds tickets to that night's game. For more details, visit thegamenashville.com/events. Appreciate Cory Curtis for being with us in the last segment. So, Joe, let's just reset the stage here real quick and go through the timeline of what all's going down here with Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava. So, Friday on the show, we were talking about reports from On3 that Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava were engaged in contract discussions, and it was unclear as to whether or not that was going to affect his status in the spring transfer portal. That was Thursday night into Friday morning. And, of course, Nico's father that night tweeted about how that's a bunch of crap and it's not true, and he called Peter Nakos names as related to that. So that's where we stood as of Friday morning. We talked about it Friday morning on the show, the contract and the market in college football and all those things. Well, by the time Friday mid-afternoon rolls around, Nico Iamaleava did not show up to Tennessee's practice on Friday, and apparently nobody on the staff could get a hold of him. It was reported later that Friday night he informed Joey Halsley, Tennessee offensive coordinator, that he had filed his paperwork and was entering the transfer portal, and Heupel on Saturday told the team that they were moving on from Nico as their quarterback and that they were moving forward. So in the span of a few days, seemingly from the outside, it went from him in spring practice, fully participating, to a complete no-show and out of the program a couple of days later. Now, as we've discussed, this has been going on for a while with Nico Iamaleava in terms of trying to land a new deal. So I guess, Joe, let's just start here. What are your thoughts on how it devolved to this point with Nico and Tennessee? And if you're a Tennessee fan with their hands in the air this morning and saying, how in the world does this happen? Like, how did you let this get to this point? How do you view this situation and how we've gotten here from the Nico Iamaleava side of things?
Yeah, the one thing that hasn't been and probably won't be completely cleared up is how this started, right? How this became public. So I've been railing about, Nick Iamaleava today. He is QB dad, central casting QB dad. But I'm going to go back to this tweet that he had, okay, where this is his response to Pete Nakos from On3 reporting on the situation on a contract negotiation. So again, he says, blah, 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 beep. Nakos from On3 called and asked me directly. I told him I had no idea what he's talking about. He said his close source that he trusts with his life from the University of Tennessee staff gave him this, end quote. Now, again, Nick has not been honest about a lot of things here, right? We know that there was some negotiating previously in terms of getting, and actually Nico has gotten a raise. And so you could doubt anything he had to say, but he quote tweeted this and outed Nakos and saying that a University of Tennessee staffer gave him this. I mean, I think I could buy that it's true that that's what he was told. Tennessee right now has been out there a little bit trying to tell people it wasn't us who made this public. I have my doubts about that. I think Tennessee was the one that made this public, and I think the decision was made because, it had just come to a head. And frankly, although everybody went nuts on the reporter at first, obviously, as soon as it went public, they responded, in my mind, and said, well, if they're going to do this and make this a public deal, then you don't go to practice, Nico. And then it just completely blows up from there.
Yep.
So that's what I think happened. And I think that Tennessee just got sick of the whole thing. And if you trace it back, and then you get into the thing we talked about today with Josh Pate and what he said, and Adam Sparks kind of cast doubt on that. Basically he doesn't think that Nico actually held out for the playoff game. If Nico actually threatened to hold out, or if Team Nico actually threatened for him to hold out in the playoff game, Imagine that being public at that time. He would be the most hated Tennessee athlete of all time.
Let's play that audio again of what Josh Pate had to say on his show last night. This is, he's talking about the landscape of college football and how all these, Pate, I think, has made it clear that he pretty much hates the way that things are going here. But he's talking about the idea of players holding out of the college football playoff to get more money, and brought up Nico Iamaleava by name. Here's what Josh Pate had to say on his show yesterday.
A lot of the people who have been pushing for the changes that are happening in the sport, they would call them progress. I would call them just changes. A lot of the stuff they told you didn't have to worry about, a lot of the stuff they told you that wouldn't happen, it's funny how it keeps happening. These are the same people who would tell you players would never opt out of playoff games. If we had more playoff games and less meaningless bowl games, then players won't opt out of playoff games. That same crowd fails to mention that this past December, cats like Nico Iamaleava almost held out of playoff games because they were trying to renegotiate contracts in the middle of a playoff run. He wasn't the only one. But just understand, all these people who cannot take a piss without getting the front of their pants wet, that claim to know what's best for this sport and claim to be visionaries, and boy, they can type a lot of words per minute, can't they? They have not the slightest clue what's best for this sport. And so we've taken the stance on this show for the past several months that we'll just ignore them. I don't really care. I don't care if you label me anti-players' rights. I don't care. I am pro-college football.
That was Josh Pate last night on the Josh Pate's College Football Show on CBS Sports.
Well, what he has against people who type a lot of words per minute. It's a good skill.
It is. I've seen you
whilst wearing a diaper.
But I mean, look, he is naming Nico Iamaleava.
We said cats like Nico,
but then said he wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
So he's naming it.
Yeah, said but cats like Nico. Yeah. We just played
almost held out of play.
Almost.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
Yeah.
Almost holding out. Did he actually go to the coaching staff? Did they go to the coaching staff and say Nico's not going to play?
Right.
Or were they talking about it? Like almost, like I heard they were talking about. That's a big difference.
Because frankly, if they did, like if they walked up to Heupel and the coaching staff and tried to negotiate and like play the leverage game at that point, if I'm Heupel, I'm looking in the portal immediately this offseason.
No, I'm out.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would then blame him for even letting it go to this.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like you can't. You have to move on. Because look, this is why we need contracts. This is why we just need like common sense. You have penalties. You have term.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I really don't think there'd be a lot of situations where a player about to quarterback a team in a college football playoff would actually try to hold out of the game. I don't think so. I'm not saying it could never happen, but if that does happen and you're a coach, you can't have that player on your team anymore. You can't.
No, it'd be hard to overcome that.
So what is it? So that's the semantics there.
Right.
I mean, frankly, Josh Pate kind of opened a can of worms here. I mean, I'd like that fleshed out. What are we talking about here? Did they actually threaten, or did they just think about it?
Right. No, it's a
big difference.
It's a great question. So now, with all that in the background, where does Tennessee go from here at quarterback? They've got two scholarship guys on their roster. Could they be a player for a big-name quarterback in the transfer portal? We'll get into that coming up next. Take your thoughts on that as well, 615-737-1025. Preds fans, don't miss Smashville Live tomorrow night at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue at 6 o'clock. You can see your Preds star players up close and personal. Also, your chance for autographs and pictures as well. That's tomorrow night, Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. It's time for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor, presented by Gary Force Acura, Cromwell Media, along with partners Fox 17, Outfront Media, and Social Indoor. Proud to announce we'll be back at Hermitage Golf Course Thursday, May the 29th to make a difference while having a great time. You can join us and a few guest media members, athletes, and musicians as we raise money for Folds of Honor. Donations will go to provide life-changing scholarships to families of America's fallen or disabled military and first responders. You can sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. So Nico Iamaleava, no longer the quarterback at Tennessee. He is going in the portal, and we'll see where he ends up on that front. In the meantime, if you're Tennessee, you have Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre as your scholarship quarterbacks right now. Merklinger is a redshirt freshman, and McIntyre is a true freshman from here locally. So they're going to go find a quarterback. As we heard Josh Heupel say Saturday, the numbers are light. They got to go find a quarterback somewhere in the portal. The question that Tennessee fans have, and I guess the question that's on my mind, is what kind of quarterback we talking about? Are they going to go find an unquestioned, this guy is our starter, we're bringing him in here to be the starter, and they're right back to being a team that maybe is competing for a spot in the college football playoff? Is it a kind of a fringe level starter that's in a competition with Jake Merklinger when the fall comes around? Or are they just bringing in a depth piece to give you some veteran options in the room that are right behind Merklinger? Like, what are they going to end up finding at the quarterback spot? I kind of took it the same way that I think you took it and that Adam Sparks took it. I think Heupel and the Vols are going into the portal here this week, and they're looking for a starting quarterback. I think they're going to try to move heaven and earth to bring somebody in here that is a starting caliber quarterback for this team.
Yeah, no, I think so. You say that, hey, we only have 2, so got to go get a third, which if you're one of those quarterbacks or their families, you could take it, okay, just adding some depth, but I think that they will I think they'll try to get a starter. You know, of course, if you're Jake Merklinger right now, this is potentially a huge opportunity for you.
Yep.
All of a sudden, whoa, you are likely to be the Tennessee starting quarterback. Meanwhile, if they go and get a good starting quarterback, you could also look and say, oh, well, I'll never get a chance, because then Faison comes in next year, even though, again, expecting a true freshman to just come in and start is a little much. But when you have a 5-star who at least one service had as the top player overall in the class, that is going to be the expectation. But so you go from, wow, an opportunity to, oh, okay, well, I guess I better get in the portal. Yeah. I mean, it could be that fast. But I think that they have to try to upgrade on him as a redshirt freshman, an unknown commodity, and who that is, who could they pry away from a starting job? No, again, not necessarily someone who's out there looking, but basically go in and try to say, hey, here's what we're paying. Here's the opportunity. What do you think?
Well, what would be an absolute just stone cold killer of a move from Tennessee is if they go quarterback shopping and they're like, yeah, we'll pay you $4 million. And $4 million was reportedly the number that Iamaleava and his camp were looking for, and Tennessee didn't go there. I don't think it's because they can't go there.
Right.
I think it's because they didn't want to go there.
Yeah, they were getting held up
right.
for more money that wasn't warranted.
Right.
And I think it's not just that he didn't do, like, the performance wasn't there to warrant it, but also when you come at people like that, again, I'm not presuming as fact that he was going to hold out for the playoff game, but if it's even like the fact that it would even be a distraction then in the discussion, it's like, this is the biggest game of your life. This is Ohio State, the college football playoff. By the way, Nico was not good in that game. They got their ass kicked.
Yep.
Like, the fact that it's even a thing then is problematic to me, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not because they don't have the 4. It's because it's like, well, you didn't earn it. And also the way you have gone about this situation. When I say you, I'm saying Team Nico, by the way, is just all wrong.
Well, and I said it earlier in the show, like, I think they need to go get a quarterback. I think they need to go get a guy and they need to be aggressive to bring in a starting caliber quarterback. Now, a lot of people are bringing up Avery Johnson, who was the quarterback at Kansas State. He threw for 2,700 yards last year, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Also, running is a huge part of what he does as well. So is that realistic? I have no idea.
That'd be
huge. If they got that, I think you'd take that.
He's a hell of a player.
I don't know if that's even remotely realistic. We'll see. But the point is, could you get somebody like that? Like whether somebody that is going into the portal or frankly, the way the college football works now, do you back channel it? And can you lure somebody away from what is presumably their starting job already right now? I know it's sleazy, but that's the way things operate in college football right now. And you can either take advantage of it or you can be victimized by it at some point. And I'm interested to see how Tennessee handles that.
Kenny from Spring Hills, there you go. Just go get Arch. Peyton,
we've had.
Doesn't your nephew like you?
A few texts about Arch today. I would not put him in the list of possibilities that I think are realistic.
A texter says Georgia reportedly offered Avery Johnson $4.5 million last offseason. He said no.
I'm not saying you're wrong about that. I just don't remember that, so I need to look into that. But
okay, Tennessee, go to 5.
Yeah, maybe so.
Just $1 million more than Nico wanted.
Yeah. It's like, wow, they just paid Avery Johnson $10 million a year to be the quarterback at Tennessee. It's crazy. Nico couldn't even get 4.
I mean, the thing is, even if you get a good quarterback, I'm not convinced this team is great.
Yeah, like this team still has questions. Like I thought, like let's say all this stuff with Nico never happened. I would have probably had them going 8-4. That's probably where I would have had them. 8-4, 9-3, somewhere around there. Like their schedule is not unmanageable. Like they've got a pretty, I mean, it's the same conference schedule that they had last year. And then you got Syracuse as your non-conference, which could be tricky. We'll see what happens there, but they should probably beat Syracuse. But now with Nico as the quarterback, I would have probably said 8-4 with the caveat of if he elevates his game to where they think he can go, which is one of the elite quarterbacks in America, then you're probably looking on the higher end at 10-2, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think now with the roster as is, not knowing what they're about to do at quarterback, I think they're like a 7-5 team, which is not exactly what you're hoping for this year if you're Tennessee.
Yeah, so we may find out about the amount of grace that will be given to Josh Heupel. Nate says, I heard SEC can't poach from other SEC schools. Is this not correct? Well, it's the spring period.
Portal.
In the spring portal period, you cannot transfer in the SEC to another SEC school. So the SEC is not –
Nico's not going to the SEC.
Is not a possibility for him. He will be outside the SEC, but that's the spring period. So had they gotten in the portal after the season, he could have.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh. What's Alabama doing at QB this year?
I mean, Ty Simpson's got to play at some point, doesn't he?
Is it Simpson's up?
I don't know.
If I was them back then, I might have been interested.
Yeah.
Too late now.
You think Nico ends up with old Belichick, North Carolina?
Boy, that'd be fun. Bill, don't talk to me. You have to talk to my dad. Oh, yeah? Well, you don't talk to me. You have to talk to my girlfriend. So I guess Nick and my girlfriend just have to talk whenever we need to speak to each other.
Make sure the emails, you're copying my girlfriend on the emails. You got to know what's going on. There's got to be a chain of correspondence around here that we follow.
Oh, God, that'd be amazing. Please let that happen.
Imagine Nico's dad, like, doing the leg press on the beach with Belichick's girlfriend. It's like, wow.
Now it's getting weird.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. Final thoughts on the Nico Tennessee situation coming up next. Plus, it is time for the final edition of the season of Preds Pick to Click. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025. 615-737-1025. If you guess a goal scorer for the Predators tonight, you win a pair of tickets to what I would presume to be the next Predators home game because it is the final one. We'll do that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot of the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game? Little give and go. Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are preferred so often. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. The final edition of the season of Preds Pick to Click. A competition that Rexrode has run away with. Really, thanks almost exclusively to the help of Paul Kuharski.
Oh, relax.
You're up by 3. He's gotten you 4. What does that tell you?
All right. I'll share my winnings with Paul, whatever that would be.
Yeah. A nice high five.
Yeah.
Rexrode with 17 correct answers. The listener with 14. I have 8. Keyser had 5, which now transfers to Ian. So congratulations, Ian, for coming into the competition on the last day of the competition and being in last place. He says, I'll take it. With that in mind, let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Michael to the program. Michael, good morning. Thank you for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight for the Nashville Predators?
Thank you so much, and it's Steven Stamkos.
Going with Stamkos to close things out for the listeners there. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the call.
Yes, sir.
So Stamkos is off the board. Ian Safar, you're up first today. Stamkos off the board. Your pick to click for the Nashville Predators.
Well, I mean, he's been playing well lately. I'll go Forsberg.
Going Forsberg.
He's been carrying the team. So
Ian's going to come in and go 1 for 1 in the competition for sure. There's no doubt. Stamkos, Forsberg off the board. Rexrode, your pick to click.
I'm trying to think. Like, how do I go out? How do I drop?
Giving into the
how do I drop?
Like,
how do I drop the mic on this? Brady Shea.
All right, Brady Shea, the selection. Give me Andreas Englund. I will take England. It will be definitely the first time he's ever been picked in this competition, and that's what I'm going with. Andreas Englund to close things out here. There you go. Your pick to click for the Nashville Predators. By the way, we will have a lot more to get to on the Predators front throughout the week this week. They're playing tonight against Utah, home on Wednesday against Dallas, and then the very important offseason begins after that. Headlined by, is Andrew Burnett still going to be the coach this time next week? So we'll get into all that as the week goes on here. Joe, final thoughts for the day on the Nico stuff. Here's where I stand on all this. I think it's very unfortunate it's worked out this way. I think Nico Iamaleava is getting some bad advice. I'm interested to see where he ends up, and not only where he ends up as the quarterback, but what sort of money he's making as the quarterback as well for his next stop. Really interested to see what that looks like. From the Tennessee standpoint, I think you have to be aggressive and go get a quarterback that you feel good about in the transfer portal and be aggressive with the collective in order to do that. We'll see if they're able to do that. And I know Tennessee fans are looking at the quarterback room both now and in the future, and they're saying, Merklinger, 4-star guy, feel pretty good about him. George McIntyre, feel good about what he could turn into. They got, Faison Brandon coming in, who by some publications is the #1 recruit in America. I said it earlier, and here's where I'm at, and I think where college football fans in general probably need to be. When the player in question walks onto the field as your starting quarterback, that's when I'll be like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Until that point, there's a long way to go. Even with a guy like Faison Brand, I'm like, okay, so he's committed. He's got to sign. And then when he signs, he has to make sure he gets here without anything making him mad. And then he has to get through some portal periods. And then he might end up as your starting quarterback at some point.
So you're comfortable when they're on the field?
I'm comfortable. I guess when you get to fall camp, I'll be comfortable. You can't transfer then.
I mean, what if you decide between series that you didn't like the last third down call, you decide to hold out?
Well,
apparently you can just hold out at all times.
We may see that at some point.
I mean, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
a heck of a time to be a college football fan right now.
Yeah.
Heck of a time.
Yeah. And look, it's we got some arguments on, YouTube here with, we don't need to pay. We got to get past all that. I got to get past these are amateurs. I mean,
that's not going back in the tube.
Yeah, that's now again, there are some lawmakers who actually want to try to put it back in the tube. It's incredible, some of it. But when you listen to politicians, and by the way, this is bipartisan, talk about college sports, it's holy crap. I figure they know something about other stuff, right? Are they this dumb about everything? My God.
Well, maybe.
So it could get worse, but we have to get the NCAA now has this thing where they're coming out. I'm probably starting this like too late, but we can get into this more this week. You know, this clearinghouse. So they're going to try to Deloitte is going to determine fair market value. We want true guys. Players are getting paid, and schools are competing for players and paying them to come to the program because they need to win. Because if they win, they get a bunch of money and they get rewarded. And if they lose, they get fired. Like, that is the reality of the situation. So put in actual contracts that actually have penalties, and you restrict the movement to some extent. The movement being allowed as much as it is the biggest problem.
Yes. And until you get that solved, this is what you're going to see. I mean, it's going to be kind of the wild, wild west. And, you know, this is the first situation that's really played out exactly this way with the spring portal and the holdout and all that stuff. But it probably won't be the last if it continues to go on this way.
Do you buy – this is another thing we can get into. There's so many topics that are coming to mind for future shows. But do you buy that – because Gentry touched on this in his column on Tennessean, that this situation serves as a deterrent for that? / do you believe that had Tennessee buckled, it would have been a slew of holdouts in response?
On the first part, let me know where Nico ends up and what money he's getting next time. Like, because if he ends up, I don't know, if he ends up at USC and he's making $4.5 million a year, not really much of a deterrent, is it? I mean, I think some of that's going to depend on what his next stop is. I do think this, and I do buy into this a little bit. Like, let's say that Heupel and Tennessee gave in to Nico. It's like, yeah, you could make the argument if you're them. Well, he's the quarterback. Like, he's the most important thing.
Right.
But that's not going to stop if I'm, I don't know, Boo Carter or Mike Matthews or whoever, Josh Josephs. I'm walking in there and being like, hey, where's my money? Like, I'm worth more. I'm not going to show up. Like, I do think I buy into that to some degree.
It's possible, yeah. But again, by the way, all those guys you mentioned have had those discussions.
They have.
So you hope that you have come to a place where everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
And if Nico was actually worth this, this would have happened behind closed doors, and we would never have heard a thing. We just would have we would have seen Nico play in the spring game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yay. And assumed that he's still on his 4-year, $8 million deal, when in fact he's on a 4 and
it may have eventually come out, but it wouldn't have been, it would have been a while.
There's a lot of deals that have been renegotiated in college football that hasn't come out. And that's another thing too. I would like to see that be part of it too, so everybody knows the market publicly. I think that's part of it. That's what it is in the NFL. It's what it is in pro sports. This is pro sports.
So a couple of interesting things to watch this week as the spring portal opens up. Where does Nico Iamaleava end up? And now we're going to be like Gruden plane search all over again for Tennessee's in their pursuit for a quarterback. Vols fans are going to be hiding in the bushes. Avery Johnson was at the Calhouns by the river. You wouldn't believe it.
Oh, God.
This guy's got long hair.
How about groomers? Like, how about like Gruden actually playing quarterback?
Part of what makes all Twitter great. We're going to see some stuff.
Jared Garantano have any eligibility left? He didn't hold out for more money.
He did not. That does it for us today.
JG was loyal
on the program. Chasing Big Joe up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.